How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your weekly forecast of what the heck is going on in the universe. This is a day late. I totally apologize. Yesterday, I was moving back to Denver, so I'm finally here after a 15-hour drive, which 2 hours were spent in the middle of the desert, and I ran out of gas like 5 miles before the next gas station, and so I was like stuck out there, and I just didn't want to worry about it. But decided to do it today, so if you guys are watching, thank you guys so much for watching and liking and commenting and subscribing to my channel. You guys are absolutely amazing, and thank you to all the Patreons that are on my Patreon for subscribing and donating and making this video possible. I'd like to put a shout out to you guys and thank you guys so much. So let's get on with the week. This week is kind of like, well, the thing is with this week, it's not even this week, it's this whole month. It's July. I mean, Mars is retrograde now. We're going to have a Mercury retrograde. We're going to have an eclipse. Mars is conjunct the South Node 3 times, and there's an eclipse on top of that. There's just so much happening this month. And this week, I would like to just give this week to Mercury. Mercury owns this week because even though, you know, I did my videos from Sunday and on, I kind of skipped Monday yesterday, or I should say today. On Monday, not a lot happened. We had the moon going into Pisces and the sun beginning its opposition to Saturn, not Saturn, Pluto, which is going to manifest exactly, like be more direct next week, and it's not really going to be this week, so not a lot happened today. However, going into tomorrow, the moon is going to conjunct Neptune. And as the moon is in Pisces, where it's saturating, it's questioning, it's feeling, it's searching, it's very internal, external type, in and out, ebb and flow, and it's conjunct Neptune, where emotionally when we have the moon in Pisces, it's kind of like things are changing, you want to be with people or party or, you know, whatever it is. As it conjuncts Neptune, you deal with more of a confusion aspect of it, of like, okay, I'm not sure if this is exactly what I'm supposed to be seeing or if this is exactly what I'm seeing. And as it trines the sun and it trines Jupiter, and we have this nice grand water trine again, well, just, I shouldn't say again, but more applied because the moon's going to be in Pisces, it's going to feel very like, okay, I'm starting to see the picture a lot more clear. I'm starting to feel my feelings a lot more clear. As the sun is in Cancer making a trine to all this stuff, it's very much, I'm wearing the energy of all this. I'm being my energy. I'm being what I feel. And so with that being said, on Tuesday, Mercury is conjunct the North Node. And that's really, really important because as we have this moon in Pisces and we're going through everything and feeling everything out, really processing it all, that's when Mercury's going to conjunct the North Node. And as Mercury's in Leo, where, you know, our words, our how we communicate, how we express is a lot more Leo. It's a lot more dramatic. It's a little bit more intense. It's a little bit more fun, a little bit more with flair. But because Mercury is going to conjunct the North Node, this is a lot of like, hey, now I know what direction I need to be going in with my communication. Now I know how to direct my mental energy. This is what I need to be talking about. This is what I need to be thinking out. This is the direction that I need to go in, and you're going to go in it confidently because it's Mercury conjunct North Node in Leo. But Mercury is opposing Mars this week, and that goes exact on Wednesday. However, before we get into that, on Tuesday as well, after Mercury conjuncts the North Node, Venus starts its trine to Uranus, which is really interesting because as Venus is still in the later degrees of Leo, where it's, you know, feeling still fun, Venus is in her pride, Venus is, you know, starting to get a little bit intense there, and it starts to trine Uranus, where Uranus and Taurus is, you know, what I feel like every astrologer has been talking about. It's, you know, all of this super conscious energy. It's all of this electricity. It's all of this stimulation, these things that are really unexpected happening in this Taurus way of, like, you know, where we kind of set our, what we kind of set our values on. And as Venus starts to trine Uranus, as she's in Leo, she's going to be like, you know what? This is how I feel, and I'm not afraid to make the change that I need to make in order to get what I want. It's kind of like a bad example, but I shouldn't say bad example, good example. It's kind of like when a woman wants to divorce her husband because she hates him, even though, you know, she's got this whole life and everything. It's kind of like, are you sure you want to do that? She's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. It's kind of like, all right, well, you can go ahead and make that decision and that choice, but it's the power that gives her that makes that choice right, rather than, you know, oh, like, I'm going to lose all of my, you know, my material gain, my money, what security I have. Like, don't worry about the security. Don't worry about the money. Venus is in Leo and it's trining Uranus. Like, there's going to be unexpected things happening happening within this context of relationships, within this context of that Leo energy of ourselves, of what our passion, what we want. And as it trines, it's kind of like it's not a square where there's tension causing extreme ups and downs that are, you know, either favorable or not. It's trining where Venus trining Uranus is kind of like these ups and downs that happen, you are in control of them. You are, you know, kind of like putting on the positive game face with it. And then going into Wednesday, we have Mercury opposing Mars exactly. And this is interesting because as Mercury is opposing Mars right before it enters shadow, it's like we have this idea of what everything, we have all these expectations is the best way to put it. We have this vision that we want to see things. We have this way we feel about things, and we're talking to ourselves about that. We're communicating that to ourselves. We're putting it out there in the universe. And as opposed as Mars is retrograde, he's like, no, it doesn't need to look like that. While Mars is in retrograde in Aquarius, we're really tearing away from the idea of what the collective, you know, thinks, you know, acting with other people. This is more of like, hey, it all comes back to you. What do you want? How do you feel? Where do you want to go? And as Mercury's right there opposing Mars is kind of like, hey, if you're going to think that way, if you're going to speak that way, if this is what you are confident about, make sure you have all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. Make sure that you're still not relying on other outside sources. You're not relying on getting it not necessarily right for other people, but you're more concerned with making sure it feels right for you. And so as Mercury opposes Mars, it's kind of a conflict of like, this is what's in my head versus this is what I'm trying to do. Like, this is what you want going on up here, but as far as like taking initiative and action on it, it's kind of like, I don't know what to do. And that's okay. Mars is retrograde. We got a couple months to figure it out. Like, don't sweat it. But as this happens, become aware of like, okay, what are all of your options? Where are the dilemmas? What are you wanting to stay away from and lean more towards? And what are you leaning more towards versus where do you want to go away from? So keep that all in mind. And on Wednesday, Venus ends its square to Jupiter. So it's finally like, Venus can kind of breathe a little bit more at the last degrees of Leo now that she's not squaring Jupiter, where Jupiter's kind of like, hey, you can have fun, but it's got to be the right kind of fun. Jupiter wants Venus to have her fun in his own way. So now that that square leaves, we kind of have a little bit more intensity towards towards the Venus and Leo stuff of like, all right, where's our heart at? Where are we? You know, we're totally blindly leading with our hearts. And as it was squaring Jupiter and Scorpio is like, are you sure you're completely blinding everything? Like, there's still some dark spots I see. Is it all good? Is it all, you know, crystal clear? Now that Venus leaves its square, it's a little bit easier. Then on Thursday, we have the moon and going into Aries. It's going to conjunct Chiron and it's going to trine Mercury. And what's interesting about the moon going into Aries, this is just funny period with any planet. After the moon leaves Pisces and moves into Aries, it's kind of like, oh, all this confusion, all these ideas, all these possibilities, to like, boom, where are we taking action? Where are we going? And as the moon goes into Aries, this Mars-ruled sign, it is going to be a little bit more frustrating. It is going to be a little bit more of like the best way to put it is Mars wants to go. It's like Aries. Aries just wants to do. And when you have Mars, the ruler of Aries, in Aquarius, and it's like retrograde, it's like there's so many options and possibilities, and you're just isolating and alienating yourself from every single one of them. But as the moon goes into Aries and it conjuncts Chiron and it trines Mercury, like, I hate to be the guy to say this, but get over it. Like, get over all of the issues that are surrounding yourself. Like, Mercury is in Leo right now. It just left a conjunction with the North Node. It's opposing Mars. Like, stop looking at every single problem you possibly can. Stop isolating and alienating yourself from groups of people that you want to be a part of. Stop acting like, you know, it all has to be in agreement or consensus with everybody around you. No, it has to be about you. This is all about, what are you thinking? What do you want? Where do you want to go? And as the moon goes into Aries, it's going to be kind of like a little hostile, a little angry, and a little aggressive. But like, fuck, man, like, don't let the whole Mars retrograde energy be like, don't let that drain you. Let that inspire you to pursue more of what your heart wants. Let you pursue more of what you're passionate about. What makes you feel what individualizes you? Not in the Aries way of like singularity, but in the Leo way of like, what makes you you? What is your skill? What is your craft? What is your passion? Where is your heart at? And as the moon goes into Aries, like, don't be afraid to do something different about it. Don't be afraid to take that action on it. And it is going to be it's going to be conjunct Chiron. And Chiron in Aries is just kind of like, we got to get over it. We've got to get over the emotions, the whole process of everything. We just need to just do it. It's kind of like, you know, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, I'm scared to go in the lake, or I'm scared to go in the water. And it's just kind of like, eventually everyone's had enough of your shit and someone just shoves you in there, and then everything's fine and you have a great day. That's kind of like Chiron and Aries. And as the moon conjuncts the spot, it's kind of like, all right, like, are you going to let all of the Mars retrograde issues surface and kind of like control you and get angry? Or are you going to go, you know what? This is the time to really do something different. This is the time to get out of my comfort zone. This is the time to put me in the spotlight. This is the time for me to do what I want. It's selfish sounding, but dude, like, we're getting ready for the eclipse. Like, it's time to put our needs, it's Cancer season. We got to put our needs first. We got to be vulnerable with this. We have to trust this process. So then on Thursday as well, the sun trines Jupiter exactly, which, hooray, like, it's kind of like, hey, we're doing what we want. We're doing what we need to. This is finally feeling good. We're finally doing that healing work. Like, that Jupiter and Scorpio, like, trining sun and Cancer, it's kind of like, yeah, like, this is both. It's 51% more positive this time, rather than, like, you know, Jupiter and Scorpio is pretty 50-50 bad good. However, with the sun trining it exactly, it's kind of like we just moved that 1%, that 1 degree difference, which is a huge deal. So keep that in mind on Thursday. Thursday could be an opportunity to either, or I shouldn't say an opportunity, Thursday could either lead you to a really frustrating day, or you can really make a decision to take some great action and to feel really good about it. So just keep all that in mind. Friday, a lot's going on. Moon's going to square the sun as it goes into Aries. It's going to trine Venus. So it's kind of like, all right, we have to, in order to approach these things, we have to, you know, change our beingness, you know, be a little bit more strict with what our needs are. It's going to be a little bit difficult to open up. The moon is going to trine Venus, where this is feeling a little bit more better about, like, hey, I feel better about the direction that I'm going in. I feel better about putting what I value first. And then on Friday as well, Venus trines Saturn. It starts to make its trine to Saturn. We have this grand Earth trine that's beginning. So it's like we have this grand water trine and we have this grand Earth trine. And it's with Saturn, Uranus, and Venus. And as Venus starts to trine Saturn, it's kind of like, hey, and especially because it starts to trine as Venus is in Leo. And what's interesting about this is that at the end degrees of Leo, where Venus is starting to get close to like Regulus and it trines Saturn, and it's kind of like putting myself first, really valuing what my heart is starting to work. It's starting to really play out for you. It's really starting to create some good results. And so that's why I've been emphasizing, like, so much on, like, focus on the Leo stuff. Like, what, like, don't worry about everything else. What do you want to do? Because it's going to be paying off. It's going to be paying out. And so as Venus gets closer and closer to ingressing into Virgo, and as it trines Saturn and Uranus, like, put your heart first. Put that value there, you know. Same thing with relationships, you know. Put that excitement there, put that passion there. It's gonna pay off at the end of at the end of the road. And so then on Saturday, this weekend, we have the moon going into Taurus, which is gonna be crazy. Saturday's gonna be nuts. Moon's gonna go into Taurus. It's gonna conjunct Uranus. It's going to make a grand Earth trine with, you know, Venus and Saturn, and it is going to be squaring Mars and Mercury, and it is gonna be opposing Jupiter. So we have the moon going into Taurus, which is just kind of like all fingers are pointed at everybody right now, because there's going to be that grand fixed square and everything like that. But just to kind of pick up one thing at a time, as the moon conjuncts Uranus and Taurus, it's kind of like, I got to get out of my comfort zone. I kind of have to, like, it's kind of like you have to be willing to let go of the thing that you've held on since childhood. It's kind of like when kids have like a blankie or something, like the Peanuts, Charlie Brown show, like that one kid had a blankie. It's kind of like when they go to school and the principal's like, you can't have that here, I gotta take it away. It's kind of like forcing you to let go of it. It's like, I gotta get out of my comfort zone, and this isn't right. I don't have my thing with me. And it's going to be opposing Jupiter, where Jupiter's kind of like, yeah, like, come on, let's get rid of that now. Let's start moving forward. It's trining Saturn. It's trining Venus. And again, what's important about this is Venus. Venus is in Leo. And I know I said this whole week is dedicated to Mercury, but Venus has a pretty good role in this week. And as the moon squares, or I shouldn't say squares Venus, but trines Venus and goes through all this stuff with that grand trine, like, again, Venus and Leo, put that emphasis there. What do you value more at the end of the day? What your heart wants, or what, you know, everyone else is telling you to do, or your comfort zone, or, you know, lying, or secrets and stuff like that. It doesn't really work out too well when you focus on those other things and you really focus on your heart more. So then, with that being said, it is like, you know, this moon's going to be scoring Mars, like, again, as far as being difficult, as, you know, emotionally putting yourself in the place to take action and to figure out where you got to go. It's going to be intense. Like, I'm not saying this, like, this week is going to be funner than this weekend. This weekend is going to ask you to really, I don't even know how to explain this weekend. This weekend, I shouldn't say it's going to do anything. It's just going to bring all of the things to the surface, because this is when we have the moon going into Taurus. It's going to be squaring the nodes. It's going to be, you know, doing everything else that it is. This weekend, a lot's going to come to fruition. I think by this weekend, everything that's going to be happening next week, like the solar eclipse and everything else that's going in, everything's going to be making a lot more sense after this weekend, because everything's really going to be coming up. But yeah, we end the weekend with the moon going into Taurus and squaring Mars, squaring Mercury, opposing Jupiter, trining Saturn, trining Venus. It's a lot. So this weekend, the biggest suggestion I can give you guys is literally find that grounded energy. Be grounded. Find security in Venus and Leo. Express yourself. What do you want to do? What's going to make you feel alive? What's going to make other people feel good? Because Venus is here. We're talking about relating with people. And with this in Leo, it's like, how can we really put everything on the pedestal? How can we really find the positive and the benefits in everything and everyone around us? And if you put those glasses on to view the world, it's going to be a lot easier to see yourself in that way too. So that's what I got for you guys. That's July 2nd through July 8th. So I'm back here in Denver. I was going to do my video where I started doing them, but it's just a little bit too windy, and it was driving me crazy, so I didn't want to do it. I was like, screw it, I'm here, I'm going to do it in my car. But yeah, it's July. There's so much going on this month. So, like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to do something random. It's okay for things to fall apart. Totally okay. Just let it happen. Just go with it. We're not done though. We just started this month. Everything's happening this month. So be patient. Take things one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself, but really feel this. Like, don't think about it. Just do it. Don't, you know, stress about the issues. Just go with where, you know, put your best foot forward, and that rest will kind of fall into place as time goes on. So that's what I got for you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching all my videos and liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my patrons. Thank you guys so much for supporting me and donating and making all this possible. I love every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next week.